Hey guys, Francis here, and I want to break down a beginner's yoga question that will teach us about the shoulder joints. We're going to use some props, and then we'll read the question, and then we'll break down the pose that from all fours or plank pose, and talk about the biomechanics of the shoulder joints in the process. Okay, we'll start with the question. So here's the question. I recently learned that you're supposed to push your shoulder blades apart and rotate your upper arm so that your elbows are pointing more toward the ground. Can you give me more insight on this? So we're going to talk about, this is kind of a two-part question. So we're going to just focus on the shoulder blades. The first thing we'll do is break down what's possible with the shoulder blades. Imagine that these pieces of paper that I folded are your shoulder blades. So they're on my back, okay? So there's a couple things that are possible, right? There are 5 movements. Elevation, that's lifting up. Depression, that's moving down. Protraction, that's moving the shoulder blades forward and around. So if these were on my back, they would be sliding forward and around. And I'm doing it with my body too. Retraction would be the shoulder blades coming together toward the spine. That's 4 out of the 5, right? So elevation, depression, protraction, retraction. And I want you to visualize kind of like a blunt, like triangle shape as you're doing the movement. The last movement that's possible is upward rotation of the scapulae. Scapula is singular, scapulae is plural. So imagine your scapulae on your back, and as you raise your arms, right, so my arm is kind of here, as you raise your arms, there's a rotation like this that happens. Okay, so rotation of the shoulder blades, so that the place where your arm socket is can be facing up when your arms are up. Now, this happens when you move the arms forward to go up, or when you move the arms side to go up. So in both of those directions. Okay, so that's our biomechanics. So elevation, depression, protraction, and retraction. And then as your arms move, upward rotation of the scapula or scapulae. And it's when your arms move either from the sides or from the front. Now let's break this down when you come into all fours or plank. So from all fours, imagine the same movements in the shoulder blades, right? So, elevation and depression, we're not going to talk about those too much, but we will look at protraction and retraction. So protraction is if you round out your upper back. And your blades, imagine those triangle shapes are sliding sort of toward the floor. Think of like if you're like a roof, and your spine is like the middle of the roof, and like snow sliding off the sides, kind of like that. So that roundedness is allowing the shoulder blades to sort of slide toward the floor and around the rib cage. That's protraction. Now, if I go the other way and I sort of let a little valley happen between my shoulder blades, right? Then my shoulder blades are moving toward my spine. That's called retraction. Okay. Now remember we talked about where the shoulder socket was pointing when we reached the arms up. So we can also think a little bit about the shoulder socket when we're on all fours. So if those triangle shapes, the joint, let me get my props here. Right, so those triangle shapes, right, are sliding toward the floor a little bit, then the socket is going to be facing a little bit toward the floor. So what that is a little bit of protraction, okay? Just a little bit. How much, right? Maybe to the point where you have, if you protracted a lot, right, you're not going to want to be there. But if you protracted a lot, retracted a lot, kind of found roughly maybe the middle or so, but it's really going to be a little bit of protraction so that the space between your shoulder blades makes like a plateau. That's not a bad place to be. And you can visualize where your shoulder socket is pointing when you do that. So you can do this from all fours, or you can do this from plank. And when you do, it's going to give you a little bit of a better fit, right, of that arm going into the shoulder socket. So a little bit of protraction of the arm, of the shoulder blades at the scapulocosta joint is the joint between the scapula and the ribs. Okay, and that's it. That's our lesson. So that answers our question, I think, which was the way they were saying it was to push your shoulder blades apart, right? So really, that's a little bit of protraction. All right. So I hope that's helpful, and you can understand where is not a bad place to be if you're in all fours or in plank with regard to your shoulder blades. All right. Hope you're well, and we look forward to seeing you next time. I'll do another video on the elbows that kind of goes with the second part of this question, but we'll just kind of focus on that by itself. All right. Take care. Be well, and we'll see you next time.